Now, joining me to talk about the debate, I have our Nancy Cordes, congressional correspondent following the Clinton campaign, and our Steve Chaggaris, CBS News senior political editor. All right, so I think we need to start with the rigged election bite that is getting so much play, and let's talk about it on the other side. But this is Donald Trump from earlier tonight.
I want to ask you here on the stage tonight, do you make the same commitment that you will absolutely, sir, that you will absolutely accept the result of this election?
I will look at it at the time. I'm not looking at anything now. I'll look at it at the time. First of all, the media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and they've poisoned the minds of the voters. But unfortunately for them, I think the voters are seeing through it. Millions of people that are registered to vote that shouldn't be registered to vote. She shouldn't be allowed to run. She's guilty of a very, very serious crime. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged.
There is a tradition in this country, in fact, one of the prides of this country is the peaceful transition of power, and that no matter how hard fought a campaign is, that at the end of the campaign, that the loser concedes to the winner. Now, to commit to that principle.
What I'm saying is that I will tell you at the time. I'll keep you in suspense.
The FBI conducted a year-long investigation into my emails. They concluded there was no case. He said the FBI was rigged. There was even a time when he didn't get an Emmy for his TV program 3 years in a row, and he started tweeting that the Emmys were rigged against him.
Should have gotten it.
This is a mindset. This is how Donald thinks. And it's funny, but it's also really troubling.
All right, Nancy, let me start with you. We had Brian Fallon on just a short time ago. He pointed to that SOT, and he said, you know, that's an example of precisely what we're talking about, why people should think twice if they're looking to support Donald Trump. What did you make of that exchange?
Well, and he and other Clinton aides were predicting that this is going to be a huge problem for Donald Trump tomorrow because Republican leaders will condemn him for refusing to say that he will accept the outcome of a Democratic election. Well, it turns out that they were wrong because a lot of those Republicans are already condemning him tonight. We've heard from Arizona Senator Jeff Flake. We've heard from South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham. There are sure to be others who say, look, you know, these races are hard fought, no question, but we live in a democratic society. We have free and fair elections, and if we don't accept the outcome, if we say that the possibility is there that we won't accept what the results tell us, you know, it's different from saying, you know, we're 50 votes apart, I want to recount. That's not what this question was about. This question was, if you are soundly defeated, will you acknowledge that Hillary Clinton is the winner? And he refused to say that he would acknowledge it. And it's already tying his team up in knots. I just talked to Dr. Ben Carson and asked him, you know, what do you think about the fact that he said that? And he said, well, I think at the end of the day, he will accept it. Well, you know, I don't think anyone has a great track record on predicting what Donald Trump is going to do or say at the end of the day. And it only creates a bigger problem for Donald Trump if everybody in his orbit, including his campaign manager, his running mate, his daughter, are all saying, we think we should accept the outcome of this election, and he's the candidate saying, not so fast.
Here's the problem. We're 19 days away from the election. He's telling us, I'm going to keep you in suspense. So what does that mean? We're going to be talking about this story from now until probably Election Day. No matter what Mike Pence says, no matter what the RNC chairman says, oh, he'll accept it. He's not saying that. And so that's going to raise a lot of questions. It's going to bring criticism. And this is what Donald Trump does. And really, I think when we look back at the history of this campaign, what Donald Trump does to himself, these sort of self-inflicted wounds, he says these things and then they get talked about, and he could just put it away with a yes or no answer. Just answer the question. He doesn't answer the question. We're going to now talk about this for 19 precious days he has to turn these polls around. And what is he going to be talking about? Whether he can accept what every other losing presidential candidate accepts, whether the election was not rigged, and whether you're going to just have it's a peaceful transfer of power. It's a very simple question. So this is going to be of his doing. It's like, you know, he can't just let these things go. He can't just answer the question simply, and I just think that he's going to be wasting several very important days talking about something he could have just answered the debate.
And the problem is this is not about semantics. This is not about answering a question clearly. This is about sending a message to your supporters that you don't believe that this election is fair And so therefore, neither should they. And that's where we kind of get into uncharted territory. You know, there are thousands of people out there already who believe that what Donald Trump is saying, which is that this election is rigged, despite many Republican secretaries of state around the country saying that's not true. We have great faith in our electoral process. And so the danger is that when Donald Trump is out there saying that, you know, there are other people getting that message. And what they'll do with that message, we don't know.
But we're seeing overwhelming bipartisan pushback today on this. Just imagine the pushback we're going to see on the day after the election if he doesn't concede the election in a way that people who normally lose do. So, you know, I just don't know where he's going with this. The strategy to me, I can't see where he's going with this. It seemed like a pretty straightforward question from Chris Wallace, and Trump now is basically turned this into a thing that we're going to talk about now for several days, taking very important time away from other things he should be talking about Hillary Clinton criticism. He landed some pretty tough blows on Hillary Clinton tonight. We're not going to be talking about that stuff because when you're talking about a rigged election.
So on that point, last thing on this, I want to ask both of you. We just had Governor Perry, former Texas Governor Rick Perry on, Republican, who said the media took the bait on this rigged election comment. That, in fact, you know, he said, I'm not as spun up over this. During the course of campaigns, he suggested that things can be reined in. Things are said, sometimes they get reined in. Is this a typical comment, Steve and Nancy? Is this a typical kind of thing that's said that is walked back in an easy way during a campaign? It seems like we haven't necessarily heard something like
whether
this
it's going to be walked back or not, what he's doing, he's raising questions about the democratic process of this country, right? So I think it's a legitimate debate to have when one of the two major party candidates says, I'm not sure that if I lose, that I'm going to accept the results of the election. That seems to be, I think, a point that's worth debating. And I think the reason why I say that is because you're not just seeing Democrats and the media going nuts about this. You're seeing Republicans, many Republicans. You're seeing his own running mate, and you're seeing the chairman of the RNC basically spinning and saying, no, trust us, he will accept the result of the election. So the fact that this is out there, I understand what Rick Perry is saying as a surrogate for Donald Trump, but I don't think that you can just forget about what Donald Trump is saying. Again, raising questions about our democracy and our democratic process in a way that no other candidate has done in modern presidential history.
I'm actually not sure what he means by the fact that reporters took the bait. What does that mean? That we're covering something that Donald Trump said?
Well, by talking about it, he said, and focusing on that.
A controversial issue. We're talking about an issue that is a controversy that he has started, that he could have ended during this debate, which he didn't. He is fueling the controversy by saying, I'm going to keep you in suspense until November 8th, and then you'll know how I feel about that. Well, again, this is a subject that has created a lot of controversy, and he didn't end the controversy tonight.
And the bigger picture is that Donald Trump needed to have not just a good debate tonight, but a game-changing debate tonight. He is trailing in battleground states. Hillary Clinton is now nipping at his heels in a number of red states. So he needed to turn the dynamic around, not just to do a little bit better than she did. And the problem with this comment is it's going to frame his entire performance.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think there are a lot of moments in this debate where not only did he have her on her heels, and he made some very, I think, good points that I think voters would resonate with voters in terms of saying that she's been doing this for a long time and hasn't produced. In fact, she's a failure, and suggesting that she has not been totally honest with the American people. She's in his words, lied repeatedly to American people. These are things that can resonate with folks. And frankly, if you look at the polls, many Americans don't think she's been honest. She was asked directly as well. She could have gotten herself into trouble, I think, because she was asked directly twice about the WikiLeaks situation and the Clinton Foundation situation, and she chose not to even go close to answering those questions, pivoted to something else. Trump called her out, directly called her out for pivoting and not answering the question. Those were moments that, you know, maybe could be and might be taken away by some voters as pros for Trump. But again, he's waded into a controversy now that is going to suck up a lot of oxygen. And Rick Perry can say that that's not fair, but again, he's saying something that presidential candidates don't say, questioning the democratic process of this country. And again, when you see Pence and you see Reince Priebus saying, we don't totally agree with him on what he's saying, I think that's enough of a controversy that deserves being talked about.
I want to turn to a line of attack by Hillary Clinton when it came to the issue of Russia. Let's play a little bit of sound and then let's talk about that.
I don't know Putin. He said nice things about me. If we got along well, that would be good. If Russia and the United States got along well and went after ISIS, that would be good. He has no respect for her. He has no respect for our president. And I'll tell you what, we're in very serious trouble. Look, Putin, from everything I see, has no respect for this person.
Well, that's because he'd rather have a puppet as president of the United States.
No puppet.
And it's pretty clear.
You're the puppet.
It's pretty clear you won't admit
No, you're
that
the
the
puppet.
Russians have engaged in cyber attacks against the United States of America, that you encouraged espionage against our people.
She has no idea whether it's Russia, China, or anybody else.
I am not quoting
she has
myself.
No idea.
I am quoting
Hillary, you
17,
have no idea.
17 do you doubt 17
Our
military
country has
and
no
civilian?
idea.
Even if you don't know for sure whether they are, do you condemn any interference by Russia in the American election?
Of course I condemn. Of course I can. I don't know Putin. I have no idea.
I'm asking
I
you,
never met Putin. This is not my best friend. But if the United States got along with Russia, wouldn't be so bad.
All right, Nancy, let me start with you. What did you make of that exchange?
Well, this was the other big moment of the night that Clinton aides feel really defined the debate for Donald Trump. They simply can't understand why, when you've got every single intelligence agency in the U.S. government in concert arguing that Russia is behind these hacks, why Donald Trump would refuse to accept that conclusion and to say, well, we just don't know, and it could be Russia, or it could be China, or it could be anyone. The Clinton campaign says, A, that shows some kind of troubling relationship between Donald Trump and Russia, and that, B, he doesn't trust the government that he wants to lead, and they say it's another example of him not being ready to lead. Steve?
I also though, think he had a good moment there where he basically made the argument to say Putin outsmarted you and he outsmarted President Obama outsmarted her every step of the way. And if he's trying to make the argument, or if he's trying to appeal to people who think that we're going in the wrong direction on foreign policy, it's a very simple and I think effective way to basically say she was the Secretary of State and this President of the United States both have failed in dealing with Russia. Again,